Hello guys, how are you?
I'm Hardeep Singh. Welcome back to your own YouTube channel. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test, and speaking, you got guesswork. Please, guys, participate in everyday listening and reading practice test to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Press the bell icon for the upcoming notifications. Don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams.
Part 1.
You will hear a talk between a student and an accommodation officer. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 10. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 10.
Hello, how may I help you?
Hello, my name is Martina Bila. I made an appointment to see you at 10 o'clock. I'm a little early. Is that okay?
No problem. We're not very busy at the moment. You said on the phone that you weren't happy with your accommodation and were thinking of changing.
That's right.
May I ask what the problem is exactly?
To be honest, there's more than one problem. The main problem is that the accommodation is further than I imagined from the university.
I see. And the other problem or problems?
The other problem is that the landlady is quite a heavy smoker. I'm a non-smoker and I'm afraid that I find it quite unpleasant.
I'm sorry about that. Weren't you given the option of accommodation with smokers or non-smokers?
I'm afraid that's really my fault. I don't mind light smokers, but I didn't get my accommodation organised very much in advance, so most of the accommodation had gone by the time I applied. However, a friend told me that there is sometimes accommodation, accommodation becomes available mid-term because some people leave the university or change their place, the place where they live, so I thought maybe...
I see. Yes, it is important to arrange accommodation well in advance, though it isn't always possible. However, your friend was correct. We do get some accommodation available mid-term. Just give me a minute to find your details on the computer.
Yes, of course.
Now, your current address is 43 Parkway Drive, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, that's a fair way away. The bus connection isn't too good either, is it? I think that it would be better to focus on that as the reason for moving, rather than the smoking issue. However, I will change the information in the computer to say that this accommodation is only suitable for smokers or people who don't mind heavy smokers. That way we can avoid similar problems in the future.
That sounds like a good idea.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you will have some time to look at questions
Now, the good news is that there is plenty of accommodation available nearer the university. The bad news is that it is more expensive.
That's okay. I expected that. Is there any catered or self-catering university accommodation available? That would be ideal.
I thought you might be interested in that. The day after you phoned, a place became available. It's catered, so it's the most expensive type of accommodation, but it's yours if you want it.
There's no self-catering accommodation available?
Not at the moment. Something could become available at any time, but then again, you might have to wait weeks.
I understand. Can I just check the cost?
It's £37.50 per week. You also have to pay £23.15 during the Christmas and Easter holidays, regardless of whether you are there or not. That sum doesn't include meals during those periods.
But summer holidays are not included.
That's right. Students are permitted to stay in university accommodation during holidays, but they usually have to move to a different flat.
I see. And do I pay monthly?
Yes, but don't worry if you're a few days late. It happens quite often, and we don't mind too much.
Can I see a picture of the accommodation?
Sure. It looks like this. You can see that there is a single bedroom for each student and a common living room and bathroom. There are no cooking facilities, but many students buy a microwave.
Can you tell me anything about the people I'd be living with?
There are 2 girls there. One is British and one is Indian. They are studying law and marketing, respectively. They're the same age as you, 20, and they're not smokers.
That sounds perfect. If I don't give my landlady a month's notice, she gets to keep the deposit, doesn't she?
That's normally stated in the rental agreement, yes. I'd like to be able to keep this university accommodation available, but I'm afraid I can't. If someone else wants it and takes it...
I understand. I'll take it. Can I move in on the first day of next month?
What day is today? 22nd. Yes, that should be fine. Give me a minute to print out the standard rental agreement.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 20. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 20.
Welcome, everybody. Are you all sitting comfortably? My name is David Price, and this is our first meeting in a series of presentations called Countdown to Departure. I know that you have just arrived here for your year-long course prior to going abroad, but it's certainly worth taking the time to consider, to think about events that will take place a year or almost a year from now. I have handed out this useful guide to planning your time abroad. Please follow the suggested timetable closely. It is vital that you get each thing done on time. If you can get things done earlier, then we suggest in the guide, that's great. But certainly don't leave them later than we recommend. If you do not get these things done on time, it could jeopardize your study abroad, or at least delay it by a year. Now, we are currently 1 year from departure. So you should start applying for postgraduate programs and scholarships immediately, if you haven't already. Consult your tutors for further advice on these points. You should also calculate a rough estimate of your study and living expenses and consider how to pay for them. We'll be looking at that in more detail during the next meeting. You should start arranging accommodation abroad as soon as you have accepted a place on a course. Arranging accommodation can be a rather bureaucratic procedure and can take a while. At the same time, ask the university about your options for paying your fees. The next point on your timetable is 6 months before you leave. At that point, you need to check your passport, and if you are going to need a new one, deal with that immediately. Remember that your passport might need to be valid for the whole of the period you intend to be abroad, but that you can often renew your passport at your embassy in the country where you are studying. In any case, your passport needs to be valid for at least 6 months after you enter the country where you intend to study. It might seem unnecessary to get your passport in order so early before you go, but remember that you have to get your visa as well. You should do that around 6 months before leaving too. Bear in mind one final simple point. Make sure that your passport has a few empty pages left for visas and stamps.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you will have some time to look at questions
Two or 3 months before departure, you should ask your bank about the options for transferring money to the country you'll be studying in and setting up a bank account there. You should also start looking at booking your flight to the country you'll be studying in order to get the best rates. The cost of flights varies considerably from carrier to carrier, and even between different travel agencies, and depend a lot upon the time of year you are flying. Booking in advance can save you a considerable sum of money. When you book your flight, you should check with the airline or travel agent to find out what your baggage allowance is. At the same time, look into booking your other travel within the country you're going to from the airport where you will arrive. Don't forget to buy travel insurance when you book any flights. Finally, still 2 or 3 months before departure, make sure that you have an unconditional letter of acceptance from the university you're going to attend. This is vital, as it facilitates entry clearance if into the country. Next, about 1 month before leaving, find out whether you will be entitled to receive free health treatment in the country you're going to, and find out how much you will have to pay if not. Look into arranging health insurance if necessary. Also, buy currency and traveller's checks to cover your first few weeks in the country. Watch the exchange rates and pick a good time, but do not leave it too late. If you are buying traveller's checks or a large amount of money of currency, your bank may need a while to arrange this. Another thing to do is find out what you can take into the country and what items are prohibited. Finally, find out whether your home insurance policy will cover your belongings while they are abroad. If not, arrange suitable insurance or look into the possibility of arranging a policy in the foreign country. The last point on this timetable is 2 weeks before you leave. At this time, you need to do 2 things. One is to ask your doctor to write a letter explaining any prescription medicines, what they are, and why you are taking them. The second is to request a reference letter from your bank in your own country, as this will help you to open a bank account abroad. Now, let's take a closer look at.
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
Check questions 21 to 27.
Thanks everyone for coming along. Today I am going to talk about a star in our kitchen, the induction cooker. How many of you have it in your home? Please raise your hands.
Everyone, I guess.
Yeah, almost everyone. Can you please tell me what you find most interesting about it?
It cooks really fast.
I find it amazing that the pot doesn't get hot even when the water in it is boiling.
Okay, I'll cover both your points in my talk. That is, how it cooks so fast and why the pot isn't heated. I'll also talk about the energy efficiency of this wonderful gadget. But first, let's see how it works. All electrical machines like motors or generators lose heat through something that is technically known as magnetic hysteresis or eddy current loss. In fact, a big challenge for electrical engineers is to reduce this loss, but in induction heating, they multiply the eddy current loss to generate more heat. If you look at the schematic diagram on this slide, you'll see that the main part of an induction heater is a specially designed induction coil. You know what a coil looks like. Can you point it out on the diagram?
The bottom half of the diagram at the center.
And where do you see the main power supply circuit?
Right underneath the coil.
Right. And the cooling system?
At the bottom right corner is a fan. I guess that's what you're looking for.
Absolutely. Where do you see the control and timer circuit?
Top right.
And top left is the ceramic cooktop. The device has a high-frequency oscillator too, but you don't see it in the diagram.
Before you listen to the rest of the audio, check questions 28 to 30.
The electromagnetic coil is just under the ceramic plate on which we place the cooking pot. It produces a strong, high-frequency electromagnetic field. Whenever a pot made of a magnetic material like iron is placed over this coil, a high-frequency magnetic field passes through the pot and generates heat in the substance kept within the pot, thanks to the eddy current loss. And this is the reason why the pot doesn't get heated. Rather, it becomes a part of the heating equipment. In conventional electric or gas stoves, heat is first transferred to the pot through contact or proximity, and then it passes on to the food. In the process, a significant part of the heat energy is lost. But nothing is lost in the universe. The so-called lost energy just makes the environment hotter. According to a technical document published in 2001 by the US Department of Energy, DOE, the efficiency of energy transfer for an induction cooker is 84%, as against 74% for a smooth-top, non-induction electrical unit. This translates to approximately 12% saving in energy for the same amount of heat transfer. However, independent tests conducted by research labs show that the actual efficiency of induction cookers is usually between 74% and 77%, and it occasionally reaches 81%. Therefore, the 84% induction efficiency reference value should be taken with caution. In comparison and in agreement with the DOE findings, cooking with gas has an average energy efficiency of about 40%. So, for environmental considerations, induction heaters are preferable to gas burners. However, does it mean that all induction cookers are equally environment friendly? The answer is an emphatic no, because the ultimate environmental impact of any stove doesn't depend on the units of electricity it consumes, but on the environmental cost of producing those units of electricity. Electricity itself is produced in many different ways, and every plant contributes to global warming differently. For example, solar or wind electricity does not produce any greenhouse gases at all. Therefore, if you ran your induction heater with solar power, you wouldn't harm the environment at all. However, coal-fired electricity generators are one of the biggest producers of carbon dioxide, the most common greenhouse gas. And among these plants, different ones operate at different efficiency levels. It has been calculated that if the plant emits less than 435 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour, the greenhouse effect of an induction cooker will be lower than that of a gas cooker.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to Part 4.
Before you listen to the audio, read questions 31 to 40.
Kepler mission. The centuries-old quest for other worlds like our Earth has been rejuvenated by the intense excitement and popular interest surrounding the discovery of hundreds of planets orbiting other stars. There is now clear evidence for substantial numbers of three types of exoplanets: gas giants, hot super-Earths in short-period orbits, and ice giants. The challenge now is to find terrestrial planets, that is, those 1/2 to twice the size of the Earth, especially those in the habitable zone of their stars, where liquid water might exist on the surface of the planet. The Kepler mission is specifically designed to survey our region of the Milky Way galaxy to discover hundreds of Earth-size and smaller planets in or near the habitable zone and determine the fraction of the hundreds of billions of stars in our galaxy that might have such planets. So, what exactly is Kepler? Kepler is a space telescope that measures the dimming of stars as planets pass in front of them, blocking just a little bit of that light from reaching us. Named after astronomer Johannes Kepler, the spacecraft was launched on March 7, 2009, into an Earth-trailing heliocentric orbit. Kepler's data reveals planet sizes as well as their distance from their parent star, like our Sun. Together, this helps astronomers to understand whether these planets are small and rocky, like the terrestrial planets in our own solar system, or how much light they receive from their parent star. In turn, this provides clues as to whether these planets that we discover might be habitable or not. Objectives of the mission. The scientific objective of the Kepler mission is to explore the structure and diversity of planetary systems. This is achieved by surveying a large sample of stars to determine the percentage of terrestrial and larger planets that are in or near the habitable zone of a wide variety of stars, determine the distribution of sizes and shapes of the orbits of these planets, estimate how many planets there are in multiple star systems, determine the variety of orbit sizes and planet reflectivities, sizes, masses and densities of short-period giant planets. Identify additional members of each discovered planetary system using other techniques. Determine the properties of those stars that harbor planetary systems. Transit method. When a planet passes in front of a star as viewed from Earth, the event is called a transit. On Earth, we can observe an occasional Venus or Mercury transit. These events are seen as a small black dot creeping across the Sun. Venus or Mercury blocks sunlight as the planet moves between the Sun and us. Kepler finds planets by looking for tiny dips in the brightness of a star when a planet crosses in front of it. We say the planet transits the star. Once detected, the planet's orbital size can be calculated from the period, how long it takes the planet to orbit once around the star, and the mass of the star using Kepler's third law of planetary motion. The size of the planet is found from the depth of the transit, how much the brightness of the star drops, and the size of the star. From the orbital size and the temperature of the star, the planet's characteristic temperature can be calculated. From this, the question of whether or not the planet is habitable, not necessarily inhabited, can be answered. Target field of view. Since transits only last a fraction of a day, all the stars must be monitored continuously. That is, their brightness must be measured at least once every few hours. The ability to continuously view the stars being monitored dictates that the field of view, FOV, must never be blocked at any time during the year. Therefore, to avoid the Sun, the FOV must be out of the ecliptic plane. The secondary requirement is that the FOV have the largest possible number of stars. This leads to the selection of a region in the Cygnus and Lyra constellations of our galaxy as areas of study. Kepler's second mission, K2. The loss of a second of the 4 reaction wheels on board the Kepler spacecraft in May 2013 brought an end to Kepler's 4-year science mission to continuously monitor more than 150,000 stars to search for transiting exoplanets. Developed over the months following this failure, the K2 mission represents a new concept for spacecraft operations that enables continued scientific observations with the Kepler Space Telescope. K2 became fully operational in May 2014 and is expected to continue operating until 2017 or 2018. Using the transit method to detect brightness changes, the K2 mission entails a series of sequential observing campaigns of fields distributed around the ecliptic plane and offers a photometric precision approaching that of the original Kepler mission. Operating in the ecliptic plane minimizes the torque exerted on the spacecraft by solar wind pressure, reducing pointing drift to the point where spacecraft attitude can effectively be controlled through a combination of thrusters and the 2 remaining reaction wheels. Each campaign is therefore limited by sun angle constraints to a duration of approximately 80 days.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
So guys, don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test and speaking, you got guesswork. Please guys, participate in everyday new IELTS listening and reading practice tests to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. For more IELTS material, visit my official website www.ieltsupdatesandrecentexams.com. The link is given below in the description. If you need PDF files of latest IELTS material, then please join my Telegram channel. So guys, please write your score below the comment section. Again, thanks for listening. God bless you all guys. Stay tuned, stay safe.